Hey there, Math Moment Makers. It's Kyle here from MakeMathMoments.com, and I've got an awesome video for you today. We're going to be exploring another concept that we typically do procedurally, or at least that's the way I was taught and the way I taught for many years. Today we're going to explore one of these concepts and help to show how we can emerge this big idea conceptually, developmentally, through strategies and models. What concept is it? Well, stick around and you'll see in just a moment. All right, so what concept is it? It is dividing fractions, and it's one of those concepts that I always knew the rule to, but I never really understood why. And over these past few years, I've been doing all kinds of exploring with John and some of my colleagues in my district office, trying to understand how math develops. And we've come up with a pretty awesome unit of study for you to check out. Go ahead, we're going to jump into a virtual classroom right now and give you a couple snippets so that you understand how this concept can be developed, and then we'll see you on the other side and let you know where you can go to find these tasks so that you can use them in your classroom right away. Now, before we head into this virtual classroom, I just want to set the context a little bit because we're going to sort of fast forward through the notice and wonder section here. But as you'll see up on the screen, we introduce this context by just placing a bag of salt, safety salt here. Some students might notice things like it says Windsor on the top. You know, where I'm from, Windsor is one of the main cities, one of the bigger cities in our area. And we have a salt mine here in Windsor, Ontario. And then you'll see someone salting a portion of the driveway. So we give students this opportunity to notice and wonder. They share those notices, those wonders, and then we get them estimating. We actually land on an idea here where we ask them to share about how much of the driveway they believe was salted and about how much of the bag of salt was used. In both cases, we're asking them to make an estimate. So we're going to jump into the classroom right now and start by exploring some of the estimates that students had shared back, and then carry on and introduce our prompt for the day. So let's dive in here, and we'll see you on the other side. We've got lots of different estimates. I've got some of the salt bag estimates down here. I've got driveway estimates up here. Things get kind of hard when I try to put them on a number line when I have all these different fractional pieces. Like when I look at 2/5, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to put this into fifths here. Whoa, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not exact, but 2/5 would be like right around here. Somebody else was saying like 1/7. Ooh, sevenths are hard. 5, I don't know, I'm gonna go like this and try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That actually is probably the best I've ever done. Probably not precise, but gives us a good idea of like, okay, so this one's kind of here. 1/4, if I do 1/4, let's look at where 1/4 would be if I go half. And then I go fourths somewhere around here and here. There's like 1/4. We had a 1/3, so lots of estimates. So it looks like to me, if I was to chop this, it feels like most people think it was less than half the driveway, less than half the driveway. And then for our salt bag, interesting, for the salt bag, we had some 1/5. So if this is fifths here, I'm just gonna try to use that as a guide. Okay. 1/5 for the salt bag, 1/4 for the salt bag. Again, just gonna line that up as best I can. 1/4 for the salt bag. So we've got some good estimates going on here. I'm really liking that. Miss, how are you feeling, and how's the group feeling about this? Like any other estimates we want to add here to get them down? Does anybody want a little bit of information, like a little more information? Is anybody up for that? If I was to give you some additional information here? What do you think? In here, I want to see what you folks do if I was to give you a little bit more information. So we already showed you, we already had you estimate. Lots of estimates have come out. I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you that if I was to split this driveway up here, I salted, and it's not exact, you know, we didn't use a measuring tape, but you can kind of see it's about 1/3 of the driveway, 1/3, which is right here. We had one of our estimates. I'm going to say that people in this zone are really, really close, which I love. So we had a lot of 1/3s. I noticed that. We had a few check marks next to 1/3. So bravo to you. 1/5 is pretty close. 1/4 is a little closer, it looks like, to 1/3. Super cool. And even 2/5 feels pretty close as well. So very good job on that estimate here. So we know it's 1/3 of the driveway. I want to share a little bit more information about the bag of salt, and then we're going to set you off to try to solve this problem any way you want. But most importantly, we're not using calculators, and more importantly than anything, we're hoping that you can convince us. So just like Miss did in her math talk at the beginning of this lesson, we really aren't interested in just hearing a number, and we don't want you to just spit it out in the chat. I want you to really try to model it some way so that you could convince someone and they could feel confident that what you're saying is reasonable. All right, so I'm going to share a little bit of information. Here's what really happened. This is kind of like a little bit more information that I didn't initially share with you. I actually got pretty particular about how I salted the driveway this day. And I took this whole bag and I split it up into 4 containers. All right, and then I took one of these containers and I used it to salt the 1/3 of the driveway. All right, I used the entire container. You can see me place it down, and that is that. So this is the whole bag of salt, and I only used one of these containers in order to salt 1/3 of the driveway. So the question we have for you right now that you're going to work on, and again, you're going to work so hard to convince us. That's really what we're after here. We're not interested in just hearing a number like 5, 1/9, whatever. I want you to help convince us how much of the bag of salt would I need to do the entire driveway. Interesting. I'm going to give you some time to think on this. And my friends, I'm feeling awesome about how you are going to go and approach this and convince us of this thinking. I can't wait. I hope that your friends, I feel like they must be realizing that when they don't do a model, it can be so much harder to actually convince someone who doesn't already know the answer, right? It's very hard to convince someone without a model. So that is really important. Yeah, and I'm going to just grab a screenshot of it. I won't share my screen. You keep sharing yours. But I'm just going to put it in the slide over here just so if we want to talk about it in a little bit. I'm wondering, like, that's really interesting. If everybody has a look at Nicholas's visual here, this model, I'm going to guess that most of us are seeing that the driveway appears to be to the far right. And I see these arrows there, and he's saying 3/4 of the bag. I'm wondering if someone else in the class can use Nicholas's representation. And again, we did this in one of the previous lessons where it was almost like, can you almost predict or kind of explain what you think he's trying to show us here with this model? Because I think I understand without even hearing him speak. I'm curious if there's anyone out there who can help us out. Like that's a great test to see how well the model's working, right? I mean, if someone can look at it and they can go like, oh, look at that. I think I understand. That means that you've done a great job modeling your thinking. I love it. I love it. So it's almost like this far left square is like the leftover container of salt. Super cool. I love it. I love it. Are there any other models out there, Miss, that we want to pull up to the screen and try to get a visual of here. Like this one looks kind of similar as well. Is that Sarah? Yeah, I'm actually very curious about this one here. Yeah, and as he's turning his mic on, it's interesting because I see it says he needs 3/4 of a salt bag to salt the driveway. And then over here I see, oh, maybe, is this a 4 down at the bottom right? Or is that a, kind of looks like a 5, but maybe it's a 4. I'm just trying to make a connection. Oh, and well, we're going to have to guess. Yeah, it sounds like his internet's gone away, but maybe that's like 3/3 of the driveway, maybe. Oh yeah, super cool. I'm going to snag a snapshot of that just in case we need to come back to it later. But that to me, and again, it really reiterates what a lot of these other visuals are showing us, right? I mean, it's very clear and concise, but really going at it from a very similar approach. I really like how it's all labeled, the driveway. And you even went and started on this side of the driveway and went that way for kind of keeping it logical, which I like. And we used 1/4 here, 1/4 there, 1/4 there. Wow, that's really impressive. I'm really impressed by that. That's super cool. Love it. That's a really cool model. Know what it kind of reminds me of, Miss? And I think this might be a great jumping off point. I'm going to snag this because like it reminds me of something here. If I was to take this, and I'm just going to toss it on my screen here, I'm kind of seeing a double number line kind of forming there. And I wonder if we were to explore that a little bit and see, yeah, like I'm looking at that and I'm seeing it, and especially how this 4 out of 4 is like over to kind of underneath. I'm wondering, yeah, it's like when I look at this, holy smokes. Yeah, you know what I'll do? I'm going to take this and I want to make a connection here because again, like we've said, everybody, and like Miss has been doing all year long, it's all about taking our representations and trying to connect them from one representation to the next. I also see a very similar model in the chat by, is it Kavanch? Oh, I love it. Oh, okay, so that's why it looks so similar. It's the same representation, but just using it a different method or a different way of sharing it. Super cool. Like when I'm looking at this, I'm seeing something going on. What I'm going to do, because I was starting to draw this on paper, I'm going to take this and I'm going to turn it this way for a second. And, you know, something that is a little bit odd or a little bit awkward is kind of how we did this on the driveway. So I'm going to do it the way we saw it so that we can stick true. And if I talk about how many driveways, I don't know about you, but I can see like I started on this side and I worked that way. I know we usually start from left to right, but that's not the way life works sometimes. So I'm going to go this one. It was like, as I did the driveway, it was like I got a 1/3 done. Notice this is like the 3rd mark. Here I've got 2/3. And then here I've got 3/3, or some would just call that the whole driveway. Now, what I want to do, and this is the part that really reminded me from Kavanch, your representation that we see up on the screen here, what reminded me of that was going, wait a second, if down here, if this is the driveway I'm monitoring, and I know I see the driveway here, but then over here, if I was to count at the same time, here I'm counting driveways, 1/3 of a driveway, 2/3 of a driveway, a whole driveway. Down here, if I talk about bags of salt, and like over here we had like no bags of salt, and then right here you folks told me that this represented 1/4 of a bag of salt. I used 1/4 all for this section. Over here, what's this going to be right here, friends? Anybody want to turn a mic on and let me know? Like, what would this be? In 2/4. Awesome. Some of you might have put 1/2 there, right? Because we could see like, wait a second, 2/4 of a bag of salt is 1/2 of the bag, not 1/2 of the driveway. What 1/2 of the bag? How about right here? What's this going to be? 3/4. Look at that. It's like 3/3 of a driveway, or one whole driveway is going to require 3/4 of a bag of salt. Now, I'm going to do this. This might seem a little bit crazy. It might seem a little bit weird, but if I was to like attach on my neighbor's driveway here, and if I was to split this neighbor's driveway into thirds, I could keep going with this, right? I know that this is 2 whole driveways. Here's like 1 1/3 of a driveway, or 4/3 of a driveway. What would this be right here? What would we call this part for bags of salt? If this is our 1 whole bag, this is 1 whole bag of salt. What if I put it in fourths? Like how many fourths would that be? 4/4. Holy smokes. How many bags of salt to do 5/3 driveways, or 1 2/3 of a driveway? What would that be right there, friends? 5/4, and keep in mind, not of the driveway, but 5/4 of a bag of salt, which is the same as 1 bag plus a fourth. 1 bag plus 1/4. Holy smokes, I could go on forever. I could use this model to help me figure out all kinds of information. And actually, if I was to look at this a little bit different, if I was to take this, I could almost squish the driveway out completely and just do all of this on a single number line if I wanted to. Now I could start and go this way, or I could start this way, and I think, well, wait a second, if this is my bags of salt and this is my driveways, something we knew was that 1/3 of a driveway was 1/4 a bag of salt. And I could build this out. Because what we were trying to figure out was, wait a second, we wanted to know how much of a bag of salt would it take to do 1 whole driveway? 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 1 whole driveway. We wanted to find out this number right here. Holy smokeroos. And you folks just told me that that is 3/4 of a bag and 1 whole driveway. Miss, my question I have for the group, when we look at these different models that we saw, here's one model, here's this number line model, here's this beautiful piece of student work. We saw all kinds of amazing student work. My computer is really, really acting up lately, so my apologies for that because it's not swinging back to my slides. There we are. We saw some beautiful student work that were all great models. My question for the group is, I'm wondering, what operation were we using in this particular problem? I want to put it to them, and then we'll wrap things up for the day. What do you think, friends? Like, what operation are we actually using when we do this particular problem? Because you all came up with an answer that was awesome, but I'm confused as to what we actually asked you to do here. How would I put this into a mathematical sentence? What did we do? Subtraction. I'm going to jot that down on my piece of paper over here. And you know what's interesting too? I'm seeing some of these like subtraction. We heard someone say multiplication. Maybe there's others that have said other things as well. I'm going to go ahead and say, like, you could approach it through addition as well. And I'm going to say, yeah, there's so many ways we can look at that, right? Like, so if I was to, I'm going to use this model. This is like a new model for us probably with fractions. So I'm going to use this as our example. But if I think about, like, if I approached it through addition for my strategy, what I might consider doing is, like, I'm like, well, I knew that it was 1/3 of the driveway and 1/4. So I could literally just be adding every time. I'm adding 1/3. I'm adding 1/4. So I would argue that, yeah, it could be addition. Some people might have started at a whole driveway and they said, well, I knew it was the whole driveway we needed, right? And I'm going to use a different color here, a whole driveway. So I could have started here and I could have subtracted thirds of a driveway, right? So it could have been like, of course, yeah, it could have been subtraction. that I used as my strategy. Notice I'm using the word strategy because that might be how you went about finding the answer. When I look at multiplication, that could work too, right? I know that I need to do this 3 times 3/3 in order to get me a whole driveway. Holy smokes. And then I could do 3 times 1/4 to get 3/4 of a bag. And I'm going to argue that the way the question stated, what we're actually doing is we're actually solving a division problem, but you may have used these other operations in order to get you there. Because as you probably know, when I add something repeatedly, we call that multiplication. When I repeatedly subtract, we call that division sometimes, right? Depending on the context. I said I had 1/4 a bag and 1/3 of the driveway. And what I end up with is 3/4 of a bag. Holy smokeroos. Well, Math Moment Makers, how was that? I hope that you enjoyed a little sneak peek into some of the prompts, the purposeful prompts that we're using as we're trying to emerge different models and strategies from students, and then how we try to take a consolidation and take those student-generated solutions and kind of pull them together. Now, while that could be helpful for you to get started, the question you might have is, well, how am I going to do this in my own classroom? And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here and bring up our Make Math Moments problem-based units and lessons. You'll see here that as I am recording this, this is on the weekend of Pi Day when I'm recording this. We are in the process of actually uploading this full unit to the website. Most of it is ready to go, but it just has not gone live. So you don't see it here, but in a couple days' time, you are going to see it appear. So by the time you watch this video, it should be here on the learn.makemathmoments.com page /tasks. That's where you're going to find this. And day one, as you saw in our sneak peek, it looks an awful lot like this. You'll notice that we've got tabs here with each day from the unit, as well as our Spark tab to get that curiosity going, the prompts for sense making, our reveal, and then of course our consolidation prompts. Now on day one, you'll be able to open up the guide and be able to get an insider look at the intentionality behind this particular lesson, as well as the unit. You'll also have some, we'll call it like hand-holding through how you're going to spark that curiosity, how you're going to craft that productive struggle. And of course, we like to make sure that you get a bird's eye view, kind of like a heads up as to what students might do with some of their solution strategies so that you can better anticipate what you might see. So you'll see here we had kind of like an area model or a double bar model, if you want to consider it that. We've got a double number line. We've also got a ratio table. You might have some students who might actually fair share as well. We're going to be adding that solution strategy as you saw in the class we were just in. So we'll be updating that as well. And all of the information that you need. You also, if you become an Academy member, you'll be able to unlock all the teacher guides from all 6 days of this particular problem-based unit on dividing fractions through partitive division. You'll also be able to download all the slide decks, the tip sheets, and all those wonderful goodies. Something else that we really want to highlight is that every single day in our unit is not a problem-based lesson, okay? We do have a couple in each unit, but there are some purposeful practice days. So for example, on day 2, if we have a quick sneak peek here, you'll see that we start with a math talk. Here, we're asking students, we set a context and say, you know what, if we're using a different bag of salt, and this bag of salt, 6 bags will actually allow you to salt 4 driveways. The question then becomes, how many bags of salt do you need for 1 driveway? And we continue with that same context, changing the ratio of salt bags to driveways to really emerge this opportunity for students to engage with the behaviors of partitive division through fractions. And then we give them an opportunity for purposeful practice. So as you can see here, there's some purposeful practice here that you can have up on a screen. You can do some copying and pasting, for example, into a slide deck, or if you're a part of the Academy, you can go and download the slide decks all ready for you. And also keep in mind that we have our printable PDFs as well. So actual handouts that you can use, because I know that sometimes it can be hard to ensure that students get the purposeful practice that they need. And you can provide it without necessarily having to paste it up on the board or whatever means that you might use. So these are all here for you for Academy members. Now, Academy members get 30 days free if you're a new Academy member. And then after that, you can do whatever you'd like. If you'd like to continue on with the over 800 members, we'd love to keep you. But at the same time, maybe you just want 30 days to try to leverage as much as you can, as much learning as you can, and as many of the problem-based lessons and units as you can. The lessons are there. They're open for you to try, but the teacher guides for day 2 and beyond in a unit are only for Academy members. The same goes for the download. So keep that in mind. I really hope that you'll leverage some of these tasks. That's why we do what we do. We want to make it accessible for all educators, equitable for all educators, so that you can provide a more accessible and equitable experience for your students, and essentially allow all students to see themselves as mathematicians. So that's it for me. I'm Kyle from MakeMathMoments.com. If you made it this far, do us a huge favor, hit subscribe, hit the like button, leave us a comment on something that resonated with you, or maybe it's a suggestion for us as we move forward. And if you're on Facebook, doing a share would be huge as well. So thanks a ton, and we will see you real soon in an upcoming video.